The End Child Trafficking campaign is an awareness campaign that seeks to utilize community theater and documentary filmmaking to highlight the issues surrounding child trafficking as a way of creating a community-based intervention that can curb the vice.
Child trafficking itself is a very complex thing, and sometimes it can go without you not knowing.
Because here we are talking about vulnerable children and suspecting children being trafficked, and where their future becomes unknown. And I must say, more than before, this child trafficking has become rampant for reasons probably which research needs to bring out for purposes of attracting global fight against child trafficking.
I can give you statistics. An average of 100 girls are intercepted by our systems here every month.
We intercept like between 12 and 15 cases on a weekly basis.
And we have seen many foreign nationals who come in as visitors, at the end of the day, go back to their home countries with souvenirs in the form of children. Child trafficking, I must say that as part of the human trafficking, is a global threat. And from the perspective of immigration, it's one of the transnational crimes we look at.
Child trafficking, it involves making children to do work which they are not supposed to do when they are still young.
The causes of child trafficking in my community, like I have encountered, can be due to economic reason. Somebody would want to traffic a child because he or she would want that particular child, based on the labor that child is going to undertake. He benefits out of it. Then the other one is for ritual sacrifices. This has happened.
There are beliefs that if you sacrifice a child, you can gain wealth.
Because for us here, there was a time about 1 year or so when they had wanted human heads.
The one I experienced when I was here is the type of children were killed and taken to the swamp. Nobody knew who killed the children, 3 children. The case was taken to police.
Any girl who reaches at any time, even before maturity, maybe 14, and maybe when the breasts begin to grow, the child could go for marriage and nobody would stop. It is still strange for the parents. They are still basing on the old system that as long as the girl's height has gone up and the breast and the body is big, they need to marry.
For example, last year we had a girl, she had just completed P7. When she went to senior 1, with the first term, within the first term, she was already pregnated.
And there are also children that are taken in the guise of adoption to offer labor in terms of babysitting, but finally end up with funny experiences.
Raising the household income, it is poverty at the highest level which is leading to this kind of problems here.
Most of them, they are even escorted by their parents. And in most cases, they want to go through immigration because they are young, and the requirement of having birth certificates, perhaps it is unheard of. Those ones sneak into Kenya, but there are many.
These kids travel with the parents, and the parents are aware that actually I'm taking my daughter to do some hard labor somewhere.
That's where people are taking advantage of by taking the ignorance of parents, promising them heaven and earth.
In choosing the areas where to to roll out this campaign, we critically look at two ends of the spectrum of child trafficking. One is, what are those key districts or communities that have a lot of individuals getting out of them and being trafficked to other districts. And then also we look at points that are destinations of these individuals, whether children going into child labor in the cities, whether individuals that are crossing borders. We have previously been to Palisa, Busia, Gulu, which have been identified as key source areas for individuals that, especially children that are trafficked, and then Kampala and Wakiso that are currently leading as the key destination points for victims of trafficking.
If you're talking about ending child trafficking, let the children tell us. Children are performing what they see at home or wherever. Did you see that witch doctor? I'm like, oh my goodness, look at what happens to children. And to see them do that, and to see the child marriage, and also to see the different themes of what trafficking is being acted out like that. I think it is a very powerful tool, to educate the children themselves, but also the masses out there.
When we get into the community, we go to the community development officer. After moving to the community development officer, we are able to identify the community-based groups or community-based organizations that we can partner with. Then we create stories. Most of the stories are created by the participants, the community people. Stories are not done from outside or from someone from Kampala or Mars. Every story is created by the participants themselves. For example, when we are working with the young children, after the one-day workshop, the children are able to tell stories that they see, which leads to the performance day.
Are we ready? Yes. Are you ready? We are ready. Are you ready? We are ready. Okay. Badu. Badu. Badu.
Ara we chi tiang anyaka ne awe noi leng phôi ha chú nhau cắt can về thì có cái đục ha.
Amazing. I keep telling us adults, for us who are older than 18, that issues that affect children know them. They know their issues. You've seen, and children see what happens in the communities. So it is very important to give the children their voice. The traffickers are very clever, and they are all over the place. They keep using different ways of doing things. So it's important that we coordinate and collaborate. And then, of course, there's awareness and the training. So I'm glad. That's why when we came to do this campaign, we said, let's talk to the people.
We have got now many child marriages in Palisa. But these child marriages are even easily identified at the hospital or maternity wing down there. But no action is taken.
To really talk to the people who make the decision, the people who are in the field, the people who should do something about it. You saw at the training, we even had the traditional, they were trying to what about the names? One called them a witch doctor. I said, for me, I'm a traditional what? A traditional healer. And to see even the stereotypes. So today it was also where we've been relearning many things. relearning many things, where there's finger pointing that, oh, it's the women. The women used to be at home taking care of children. Now they go to work. But hello, yes, the women have to work, so you adjust and also help in that. Issues of families. People are saying, oh, when we used to grow up, the community took care of children. Now I don't know what is happening. So I had to remind them, it is our time, so it's us who are messing it up. Our parents brought us up in that way. So if you're seeing something wrong, so that means it is us creating that problem. So what can we do about it? How do we bring back that family unit? Caring family unit to take care of children. And then you also had some people say that, oh, okay, children also are to blame for some of the things that happened to them. Then you had to remind them, hello, these are children. When you see a child doing wrong things, a reflection, of the community, of the parenting. So they need guidance.
It's really powerful to see these children put themselves in the shoes of us, the parents, us, the perpetrators and community leaders, to tell us a message that, look, it's not just us, the children, being affected, but even our other members of the community being affected. And the story is so inspiring. And everyone is drawn to see a child, for example, act as a parent, giving her daughter away in marriage.
They take on these stories. They own these stories. They know what is happening in their community. And when they act these stories out in front of an audience that relates to these stories, then that way they can be convicted into ensuring that child trafficking can be ended. People came, even if it was raining, people came together. There was no going away because they could relate to this. They thought, at the beginning, they thought, okay, this is just a comedy group. But when they understood that these are serious issues being channeled through familiar faces, then they could take heed. They could even notice that they themselves are perpetrators of child trafficking.
And I worked with a team with a theme I care a lot about, that is the child soldiers. And having worked with children, who were abducted in northern Uganda, because I meet victims all the time. And when we are acting it, for me, it's not like a joke. That's why when they were laughing and doing all those things, I said, hey, this thing is serious. And in the audience, you're most likely going to find people who have actually been affected by it. And you should know that the message you're giving, you want people to do something about it because you are upset about the situation which is happening to fellow children. So, when you're acting and somebody does something, there's this temptation of laughing, which comes, when you're acting because you're putting your shoes into somebody else's shoes. So to explain to them, because some of them are young. They may not have actually experienced the Joseph Kony war that time. And so it was also important to explain to them, why we are doing those kits. Excitement is because they love what they are doing. So that was also a good sign. Children never lie. If they are bored, period. If they don't like to do it, they don't like to do it. And to see that they're excited about things that concern them. And for me, it tells us adults that let children speak. If you're talking about ending child trafficking, let the children tell us. What I saw today is that children are performing what they see. They're acting it. When you define what is child trafficking, child marriage, labor, child labor, use of children in armed conflicts, removal of organs. So they acted all those parts. And it's a beautiful way to do it, community theater.
chose to work with community theatre and documentary filmmaking because, first and foremost, these are the areas where we have expertise.
My name is Lamona. I am 15 years old. I'm in S1. I stayed in Loyabo Village, Gulu district. My mother was with my father, so my mother just born me, so they separate themselves. She went to another man, and from there, that man does not like me. He just take money from men and say that he have the daughter. I say I'm a sex worker. They usually come and play me, but he put some pills here that me I should not just get pregnant, but me I remove it myself. He beat me and broke 2 of my teeth that I should not remove that thing. Life is not easy with me. Even at school, nicknamings everywhere, here and there. In my future, I want to be a lawyer to save such situation.
Imagine your own daughter being trafficked into sex work. Imagine your own boy child being trafficked into child labor. It hurts all of us, right?
We should look at these children as little angels. We should treat these children as if they were ours. We should take up a picture where you see your own child taken away from you and never to be seen again. And I would say probation officers, courts of laws, government officials, let's join this fight and we stop child trafficking. Because today it's somebody's child, tomorrow it might be your child. And I think together we can fight this vice, because understandably this is an international vice that is almost being next to drug trafficking.
What we seek to achieve in this is to ensure that we give right messaging about child trafficking, to ensure that the communities are able to explore how it manifests in their communities, whether it's child labor, prostitution, or child marriage, and the like.
The challenges are actually we have a limited resource of accessing sensitization to a majority of the community. We only take chances when we have a gathering at school level. For example, when we have parents' meetings, which is also limited. Sometimes we are allowed to address communities when we go for burials, but not always. So sometimes it's when we chip in.
Some few cases are reported to the police. One, the community has fear for the police. We lack funds to support the education of adults. We need some funds to pay instructors, to train instructors, to teach adults basic literacy and numeracy skills.
We could empower the families economically so that we curtail the temptation to surrender their children because of the impoverished nature they find themselves in.
I still feel there is a need of sensitization. There should be a program where people should go from village to village and continue talking to people about child trafficking.
We still have a lot of work to do in regards to attitudes of our community members, including ourselves, because child trafficking is just one form of violence against women and girls, violence against men and boys.
We strongly believe that a campaign based in the communities gives a better chance of curtailing child trafficking at source points.
What I've personally, or we have really discovered in this campaign since we started, is that the child trafficking, people are ignorant about it. People don't understand what child trafficking is. So a lot of awareness is needed, a lot is needed to make the families, homes, children, parents, everyone that is a stakeholder to know what child trafficking is.
As I speak to you now, we are coming to about a year and a half of this engagement, and we are encouraging more resilient communities that can identify, that can proactively take action to report traffickers or victims that are perceived to be facing trafficking, and also to encourage our policymakers to take the messaging coming out of the communities into the process of creating the policies for them.
I believe ending child trafficking is everyone's responsibility.
I believe that it's me and you to join our hands together and end child trafficking.
End child trafficking.
Hold the ground.
Mama, free.